Welcome to Light. I've been away for a few days for a couple reasons that I outlined on yesterday's upload. My grandmother was hospitalized, and more importantly for the channel, like, I literally wasn't able to do anything because of my internet. I live in a part of Oklahoma where it was just completely down for days. I think it was something to do with the hurricane, but I'm not entirely sure. But anyway, for today's topic, we're going to be talking about something that I've wanted to kind of get into for a while. For about, honestly, longer than my channel's even been around, for like a couple months. So, Vaush and Blaire White. Okay? These are two very influential internet figures. I'm sure if you clicked on this video, you know who the hell they are. Vaush and Blaire White are on pretty much opposite ends of the political spectrum as far as you can go into that direction. And that makes sense for a lot of disagreement and a lot of separation between the two. What this video is going to be attempting to do is not to necessarily request either of them to cross a ideological bridge, but more of a human one. Because let's start with Vaush, and I'm going to have a whole video tomorrow or the next day just defending Vaush from stupid attacks like he's a pedophile or whatever the fuck baseless allegations the people make up because they don't have an actual argument for his points that he makes. But today, we're going to be focusing much more on what I believe is a misconception from Vaush. So, Vaush has spent a lot of time talking to a lot of dishonest people. A lot of them. I mean, probably half or more of the conservatives he's talked to are just liars. They lie about what they believe in. He calls them out on it real time, and then like they try to wiggle out of it in some way, right? Okay, so I understand the gun-shy approach that he has to a lot of these people. I really do, but what I don't think he's gotten correct is that he seems to think that she is a dishonest actor. I disagree with Blaire on a lot of her politics, probably the overwhelming majority. I even disagree with her on what she seems to think is the current state of trans issues and stuff. But one thing that, I mean, call me naive, but I really don't detect a single semblance of dishonesty from her. You may have a different opinion of that. Vaush certainly does at the moment, I believe. But boy, I can't detect a single thing that if I were able to sit down and have a conversation with her, and I really was talking to her from the heart about something, that she would just lock her brain, force herself not to think about it. Because this is what some people do. I've had experience of talking with these kind of people. I'm sure many of you have. Some people will literally lock whatever their idea is and go la 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 while you're trying to talk to them, as if nobody's there because their ideas are getting challenged. They usually live in an echo chamber or something of the sort, and now you have taken them outside of that echo chamber and they're hearing something that contradicts their preconceived notion of how the world works, and they'll just lock it up. They'll lock it right the fuck up before they'll ever even give you the slightest amount of deference to what you're trying to say to them. And I really don't feel like that's the case with her. I do not think that she is in any way disingenuous. And I think Vaush seems to think that she's a literal, total, wanting, lying grifter. And like I said, I understand why he's gun shy on this shit. He's talked to a million fucking wanting, lying grifters. Okay? I mean, we're talking about whether it's the Oliver guy, the Alden's army, okay, whether it's that guy, whether we're talking about Sargon of Akkad, who, whether or not he was at one point genuine, he certainly isn't anymore. And that's easy to see. Okay, those are just some higher profile ones. Like, he's talked to a billion fucking, like, nameless, if you will, nameless lying grifters. Oh, I understand his caution, but in his conversation with Blaire that's on his channel, that I've seen, and I've watched twice now at this point, there is some sincerely, how do I put this? Sincerely presumptuous accusations on her part, or towards her. Now, as far as Blaire goes, I think, and call it what you want, I think that she was likely raised in a weird way. And a lot of her views towards trans people are influenced by the fact that she probably has anxiety on whether or not she's a true woman or not. And that can be a really unhealthy mindset, to do everything in your power to be and present a certain way. And then, obviously there's assholes, right? But to just have this feeling of almost irrational feeling of you'll never be everything that you are. I mean, I really wonder if she has sort of meltdown moments about this sort of thing, because she's always really fucking scared of somebody thinking that, like, she's like a crazy quote unquote trans person. And I take huge issue with that. I take huge issue with our culture being outwardly expressive of these people as not being women. I take huge issue with all of that, and I think that's poisoned her. And she seemed to truly, literally, like, not understand when Vaush was telling her that you don't have to have gone through an entire medical fucking transition to be a woman yet. Like, it is an internal thing. It's not a purely external putting on the makeup, wearing the dress thing to be a woman. It's just not. I personally am a gender abolitionist. I think that these are I think these are social constructs. Okay, there's the matter of genitalia, and then there's the matter of what it means to be a man and woman. Okay, that part is literally made up, and just we've decided on what that means, and we just agree with what that means. That doesn't make it true. Okay? Like, we can decide if this movie is good or bad. That doesn't literally, in what the word true means, make it true. Something true is what the facts are. Something objectively verifiable, no matter what someone's feelings towards it may be. And that is certainly not what gender is. That's what genitalia is, but genitalia is not gender. Gender is a different thing. It's what clothes you're allowed to wear. Nothing about your genitalia should dictate what clothes you're allowed to wear. Okay, stuff like that. I could go, what toys as a kid you're allowed to like. You know what I mean? Nothing to do with genitalia. It fucking goes towards that. Plenty of people I know go towards whatever toys, and they don't think about it until somebody makes a big stink about it. And then, like, they think, like, oh, no, I'm weird if I'm playing with dolls instead of race cars. Like, you know what I mean? So, it's obviously, in all of those regards, a complete social construct. And I think that she genuinely doesn't understand that. which can lead to disagreements she thinks she has with somebody that are literally baseless. They are the opposite of based. They are baseless. These disagreements are often categorized in strange, made up, unnecessary boxes that once those boxes have been opened up and somebody's exploring the contents of those boxes, metaphorically speaking, like through argument and through discourse, that she almost gets afraid of somebody exploring the idea. And at that point, there's sort of a thing that happens where instead of actually going through point by point and seeing where logic follows, she would rather bring it back to like a, well, we just have a difference of opinion on this. Okay, well, you can't have a difference of opinion on something. You can't have it on everything, right? Like, you can't have a difference of opinion on math. You can't have a difference of opinion on scientific inquiry. Like, if everybody's discovered that grass grows green and shit because chlorophyll and photosynthesis, like, whether or not you have an opinion on that doesn't change that from happening. Okay, and in this way, whether or not you have an opinion on gender being a social construct or not does not make it all of a sudden a scientific fact. Okay, because it is literally not something that you can prove scientifically. You can prove scientifically what somebody's genitalia is. You cannot prove scientifically what somebody's gender is, because it is a idea. In other words, a social construct. Just like how people think of, this is how like things like racism is formed, because people think of like, you know, black people or Asian people or Mexican people or white people as literally different species almost. When the reality is, it's way more like how a bunch of tabby cats that are all the exact same species can have a bunch of different coats of color. It's way closer to that than it's anywhere near different speciation. First of all, we can all mate very easily. There's no complication there at all. We can all live at any point on the earth. It's not just where, like, you know, like fucking, it's not like an RPG where like African people have like plus 25% resistance to sun, and fucking Aryan people, like Scottish, Swedish, whatever, like they have like fucking plus 25 resistance to cold. Like, it's not actually how this fucking works. Okay, it's the differences are minuscule, and it's because it's not a truth. It is an idea. There's outward things that look different. That does not comment on the biology of this. So when Vaush and Blaire, or anybody like Blaire, go at it, a lot of the times the ideas get left on the back burner. He likes to bring it to ideas, but oftentimes the people he talks to would much rather make it about feelings, which is ironic, because the entire conservative in the United States of America community, the entire conservative base, started going with this line of facts over feelings. And they have to be possibly some of the most feeling-based people. And I'm not saying that that's necessarily a bad thing, but it is accurate. They argue much more comfortably on, well, what if this was your mom that this happened to? Like, or what if it was your something? Like, it's always going to be like a personal thing, which personal things are emotional by definition. That when they make a big idea of systemic governing down to like a very hyper personal level, that gets muddied very quickly in whatever your personal feelings towards something is, versus, okay, yeah, but how do I feel about this on a broad conceptual governmental implementing level? That gets fucking thrown in the back burner And now we're just talking about how, like, I would react personally if this crazy thing happened to me. Like, for instance, like, I'm against the death penalty. So is Vaush. Somebody immediately on the conservative right that is pro the death penalty and also pro-life, whatever, who's pro the death penalty, will now immediately rush in and go, oh, but what if it was your mother who was fucking raped and murdered? Wouldn't you want the person who did that killed? Okay, whether or not I do, which, by the way, maybe I do, whether or not I do, literally has nothing to do with me being anti-death penalty. What about that you just proposed to me changes the argument that we kill a percentage of the wrong, like it's a smallish percentage, but it's a percentage of the wrong people with the death penalty. Meaning we've killed 4.5% of innocent people who were later proven to be innocent people with the death penalty. You coming at me with some personal, emotional argument doesn't change that statistical fact at all. It doesn't alter it in any way. So, of course, that doesn't alter what I would like to be seen governed or legislated. To boil this all down and to make some sort of conclusion of this fucking hopeless, futile rant, because I really believe that as much as I would like to see them treat each other as humans, it's hard to in a hyper-political world such as this. As much as I despise Ben Shapiro or something, I don't deny him his humanity. I just disagree with what he's preaching to the world. But I never deny his humanity. I never deny that he has human experiences, that he loves and is certain people and hates certain people. I don't deny him any of that. And I feel like it's so easy to do that, though. Like, it's almost what you naturally feel inclined to do versus engage with somebody. And I'm guilty of this. Everybody's guilty of this. Rather than engage with somebody on an actual intellectual, ideological level, it's much more easy and satisfying to just dismiss their humanity entirely. And it's much more entertaining to do that as well. That's the problem. It's much more entertaining to call Ben Shapiro a lying little goblin than somebody who has incredibly ill-formed political beliefs. Like, that's nowhere near as entertaining. And that's why it doesn't happen as much. Because we are in an entertainment-driven culture for a long time now. And when Vaush and Blaire get into it over something, it really becomes pseudo-speciation pretty quickly. It becomes, I'm on the left, she's on the right, and we're never going to... And I'm not... a little addendum to that real quick is that the conversation Vaush had with Blaire was years ago now. It was almost 2 years ago. And he's changed the way he engages with people a lot since then. So I'm not saying that this is necessarily 100% applicable to modern day Vaush, but it becomes pseudo-speciation fairly quickly. And that can entail in fucking horrible discourse. Pseudo-speciation is never going to change anybody's minds. It's never going to engage with what the ideas are. Okay, it's not able to do that. So I really think that we should try to avoid that kind of shit at all costs, no matter what. And hopefully one day they can talk again or something, and I just want him to understand that she is not a liar. Not a professional liar. Like someone I would say Ben Shapiro is a professional liar. I know he's got a bunch of like fanboys that think everything he says is literally gospel. That doesn't change that if you fact check what he says, that he makes it his job to come on here and lie to you. And it's way easier to do that than it is to try to say something truthful. It is way harder to remain truthful and try to, like, even with ire and vigor, it is hard as hell to say the truth versus just coming on here and just lying for a living. And I know that they will fucking say that, like, oh, but like he's the only one telling the truth and you're the one lying. Well, that's fine. That's your opinion, but that's all it is your opinion. Because if you want to get outside of both me and Ben Shapiro or whoever, you want to get outside of that, you want to objectively verify everything that's happening there to the best of our ability, you will see very often who the fuck the liar is in those exchanges. Okay? Anyway, rambly video. I've been out of my element for a couple of days now, so this isn't probably going to be the best video I've ever made, but it's a fucking video. I had to make some video. I got to get back in it. I've had a rough fucking few days. I'm not feeling myself, but hey, man, we're all going through some shit. So what the heck am I saying, you know? I love you guys, and I hope that you enjoyed the light. This is a recorded video because my internet's still not fully back up to snuff, but hopefully we'll be streaming it at you soon enough, huh? Have a good one, everyone.